Welcome to the Treasure Seekers play, David the Shepherd Boy. The students in this class have been learning about David's life, and they think he is a really neat Old Testament character to study. We hope you do too. David was the youngest of 8 brothers who lived in Palestine. His daddy's name was Jesse, who was the grandson of Ruth and Boaz. David was a shepherd who watched over his family's herd of sheep. He kept his sheep close with him so none of them would get lost. He counted them often to make sure they were all there. If David lost a sheep, he searched until he found it. David kept his weapons close by. He had to protect his sheep from harm. His staff was important when a sheep wandered close to a cliff. The sheep might fall, so David used the crook to pull the sheep back to safety. His rod was used to fight off the enemies of the sheep. The rod made a great weapon against bears, and so did the slingshot that David used to run them off. The first king of Israel, Saul, had disobeyed God's command to destroy the Amalekites and their possessions. God told Saul that neither he nor his family would continue to be king over his people. So God sent his prophet Samuel to Bethlehem to anoint a new king. That new king would be one of the sons of Jesse.
Jesse, I want to meet your sons.
Do not look at how handsome or how strong he is, because he is not the one I have chosen. I do not see him like men see him. I look at the heart, not at the outside appearance.
Then Jesse presented Abinadab to Samuel.
God has not chosen this one.
Then Jesse introduced Shammah to Samuel.
God has not chosen this one either.
Then it's 7 sons to Samuel, but not one of them was the one God had chosen to be the next king.
Jesse, is this all of your sons?
All but the youngest. He is at home tending the sheep.
Go get him, I want to meet him.
As Samuel looked at David, God spoke.
Anoint him, for this is the one I have chosen.
He had beautiful eyes and was handsome, but that was not the reason God chose him. He chose him because he had a pure heart, just like he wants us to have today. left King Saul after he disobeyed him. Instead, he was given a spirit to trouble him. King Saul was very upset. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sleep. He was very, very sad. His servants suggested to him that music would help. Now, David was known for being a great harp player. He also wrote beautiful songs to sing. Saul told his servants to bring David to play for him. David was a talented singer and poet. He wrote beautiful poems to sing. Perhaps he sang these words to Saul.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
David's music and words were very comforting to King Saul. He felt better after David sang to him. So David continued keeping his father's sheep, but he sang for Saul whenever he needed him. He came to love David like he loved his son Jonathan. In fact, the two boys became good friends. Now the Philistines gathered on a mountain to do battle with the Israelites. The Israelites stood on the opposite mountain with a valley between them. Each morning and each afternoon, the Philistines' champion soldier came out to challenge the Israelites. Goliath was his name. He stood just 3 inches short of 10 feet. His coat of armor weighed 125 pounds, and his spear weighed 15 pounds. No wonder the Israelites were afraid of him.
Why are you standing ready for battle? I'm a Philistine, and you're Saul's army. Choose one man to come fight me. If you win, we'll be your slaves. If I win, we'll be your slaves. I dare you.
Goliath continued challenging the Israelites for 40 days. About that time, Jesse needed to send some bread and cheese to his sons who were in the army. David was not old enough to fight, so he was still at home taking care of his father's sheep. Jesse had another shepherd tend the sheep and sent David to the battlefield with the food for his brothers.
Come out here. Come out here and fight me. Choose one man to come fight me. If he wins, we'll be your slaves. If not, we'll be yours.
Who is that, John?
That's Goliath. King Saul will give him a lot of money if he kills him. He will also give his daughter to marry, and he will not have to pay taxes in Israel.
Is
Saul offered his armor to David to wear, but David refused because he was not used to fighting in it. Instead, he took his staff and his sling with 5 smooth stones that he picked up from a brook in the valley.
Be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. The Lord goes with you each and every day. Be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. The Lord goes with you each and every day. Strong and courageous and do not be afraid. The Lord goes with you each and every day. The Lord goes with you through the trouble and strife, and He will protect you all the days of your life. Strong and courageous and do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Goes with you each and every day. Strong and courageous and do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Goes with you each and every day.
What am I, a dog? You come at me with a stick? In the name of dog, I will feed you to the birds and the wild beasts.
You come at me with the sword and the spear, but I come at you in the name of the Lord and the whole army of Israel. The battle belongs to the Lord. Today God will give you to me. I will kill you. He will help us defeat all of you.
After David killed Goliath, the Israelites won a great victory over the Philistines. Saul gave David a special job. He became the king's armor bearer. This meant he worked as Saul's aide when he went into battle. David became a great soldier, and eventually he became Israel's greatest king. His courage came from his faith in God. The same way we too can have courage. Who can defeat us if God is on our side?
You might be small, but your faith in God, you're 10 feet tall. David fought Goliath when he was just a boy. When he stood next to that giant, he looked just like a toy. Goliath saw his giant spear, he brought his giant sword. But David brought a little sling and a giant faith in the Lord. Swing your sling like David. Swing your sling like David. Like you don't know what great is. Just swing your sling like David. You might be young, you might be small, but with faith in God, you're 10 feet tall. Goliath said, "You want a piece of me? I'm shaking in my shoes." David said, "God is on my side. I know you're gonna lose."
Cass, take a bow.